And tonight on PM Express, a conversation about the Anti-LGBTQI Bill, which has finally been passed by Parliament. Remember, it went a back and forth for 3 years, and today the House unanimously passed the bill into law after some initial hurdles were cleared. Until today, how has this bill fared in the last 3 years? Let's refresh your mind. And it first, in fact, as it stands now, this is what the law seeks to do. You get 3 years jail term for engaging in LGBTQI+ activities, 5-year imprisonment for promoting LGBTQI+ activities. The bill actually came to Parliament. The first time it came to Parliament was in July 2021. That was when it was introduced. Then in August 2021, it had the first reading. Then today, February 28th, the bill has now been passed, but that was not without some hurdles. Initially, there's been conversations about substituting the imprisonment term with the community service. That suggestion was made by now Majority Leader Afenyo Marking, but that was shut down. But here are his reasons. He says the term could worsen individuals since the act is behavioral. The jailing for sexuality is not the solution, and he says the bill is likely to resurrect criminal libel law. We'll get into that, those matters, as you see a coalition of some group also bringing up this particular one, saying this could affect the work of the media. Now, the Majority Leader Afenyo Marking's initial argument to substitute the imprisonment with community service was dismissed. The House also rejected a proposal to seek consensus from flag bearer. You remember, he said that they should seek consensus from the two flag bearers of the two major political parties, the NDC and the NPP. That was also shut down. He pleaded for time to propose further amendment, but was denied he was denied that. So the passage of the bill also had some issues that stalled the passage. So first was the plus in the bill, which the speaker said was not properly defined. So it was referred back to the sponsors that they should properly define the plus in the bill, which I believe was done, and today it was passed. So is the bill now law? No, it's not law yet. The president has to assent to the bill to make it law. So that is where we are currently. But let's paint a global picture. There are a number of countries who have also subscribed to laws that would punish LGBTQI activities. 65 countries have jurisdictions that criminalize LGBTQ. 12 of them have jurisdictions with death penalty inclusive. 14 countries criminalize expressions of transgender. And then if you look at the Africa perspective, there are 54 countries in Africa. Out of the 54 countries, 31 have laws against LGBTQ. Countries that have criminalized the act are 21, and you have 21 other countries who have custodial penalty sentences. That's on the Africa sub-region. Now, if you look at the penalties associated, libel conviction term, those countries we're talking about, they have so this is Nigeria, for instance, and they have 14 years imprisonment conviction for people who enter into same-sex marriage, contract or union, 10 years imprisonment for people who register, operate or participate in gay clubs, societies and organizations, directly or indirectly making public show of same-sex amorous relationships. And you have 10 years if you administer, witness, aid or abet the solemnization of same-sex marriage, or you support registration, operation and substance of gay club societies. This is Nigeria. And that's how the picture looks like in Nigeria. Now, if you look at Cameroon, they have 6 months to 5 years imprisonment and a fine of 20,000 CFA to 200,000 CFA for sexual relations with a person of same sex. That's your offense that gives you this kind of punishment. And then you move on to top 10 countries who tolerate LGBTQI activity. So this is the level of tolerance per the countries. If you look at Cape Verde, it gives you 80%, and this is an Afrobarometer survey we're sharing with you. It says 80% in Cape Verde, they have 80% tolerance. South Africa has 70%, and the lowest is Benin and Lesotho, which are at par at 22%. But you see 56% for Mauritius, you see Namibia with 54%, followed by Mozambique and Sao Tome 40%, Botswana and Tunisia, who have some tolerance. But if you look at bottom 10 countries, they are not tolerant. They have very less tolerance for LGBTQI activities, and it is led by Burkina Faso, and Gambia is the least. So Gambia is actually not tolerant at all, with 3% of LGBTQ activities. Where is Ghana? 7%, Sierra Leone 7%, Guinea 7%. So these three countries stand at 7% tolerance. And then you see Malawi, Senegal, Liberia 5%, Zambia has 4% tolerance for LGBTQI activities. Today, the LGBTQ law has been passed in Ghana. What next? I've been joined in the studio by Sam Nate George. He's MP for Ningo Prampram and the lead sponsor of the bill. I would also be joined virtually by Michael Augustus Akakpo, his Senior Programs Officer, Human Rights and Social Inclusion at CDD Ghana. Dr. Amanda Odoi is academic and researcher and a member of the number of coalitions who are against the passage of the bill. And I'll also be joined by Very Reverend Father Clement Kwesi J. He is Secretary General to the Catholic Bishops' Conference. Let's have a conversation after this break. And welcome to PM Express. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. PM Express is brought to you by Syntex Tank. It is strong, it is tough. Alomo Bitters. Experience greatness in every moment. And Ghana AIDS Commission. Pepsodent, every smile matters. If you want to talk about Syntex Tank, no matter your water needs, Syntex Tank has it all. Syntex Tank is first to introduce double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Now Syntex Tank is first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce to you the customer specs order, which lets you order any color and size of preference. Syntex Tanks gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you in Ghana. So whatever your water consumption, size of project or demand, choose Syntex Tank. We have agents nationwide. Call them on 0244 335 168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex Tank, a strong, a tough. Also, I've been joined this evening by Michael Akakpo, Dr. Odoi, and also Very Reverend Father. Thank you all of you for joining us. Sam George is with me in the studio. It's been a tough day for you, I can imagine. Well, we've been following this from day one when it started. We've seen the back and forth, even before the third reading today, before it was passed into law. You had some issues with clauses 10 and 11. What were the issues?
All right, so good evening to our viewers. The media was our issue. The media has been our biggest ally in this battle. You've been a reliable partner on this journey for 3 years. You've given us the opportunity to clarify portions of the bill that had been intentionally and maliciously twisted by opponents of the bill. And so we consider you our greatest ally in this journey. Going forward with the public sensitization, we would still depend on the media. However, we realized that the latest spin had been focused on clause 10 and 11 of the bill, which dealt with the propagation, advocacy of support for the prohibited acts under the bill. And the latest spin had been that we were reintroducing criminal libel law, and even media houses could no longer have editorials on the subject matter. And so we decided to say that, look, for the avoidance of doubt, we'll put it inside of the bill that this is subject to the 1992 Constitution, because the sponsors of the bill will respect the Chapter 12 rights that the media has, the freedom of expression. But the media is also guided by ethics. There's a difference between editorials and advocacy. Editorials are informative and educative. Yeah. Advocacy are opinionated. And so for us, we don't have a problem. And that's why we introduced that these provisions are subject to the provisions of the Constitution. That phrase was introduced so that all the things in clause 10 and 11 are subject to the Constitution. Chapter 12 of the Constitution that deals with the freedoms of the media. Okay. Article 162, I believe, and all that gives you the freedom to express yourself. However, those freedoms are guided by your ethics. Okay. And that's why you would not advocate for something that is a criminal offense. That's why you would do Joy, for example, before we started the show, you could have chosen to do an editorial on money laundering or anti-terrorism, but your editorial will stop short of advocating for those things. Okay. And that's the simple point we're making here. Okay, so now it's been passed. Let's have an appreciation of what the document actually states right now, currently. There's a 3 years imprisonment bill. Passed, there's 5 years. I mean, what exactly does the document state? I don't have the document. I mean, just highlights of it. I think that we have 3 categories of offenses, or 4 actually. 4 categories of offenses in the bill. Category 1 is where we criminalize the acts of homosexuality, lesbianism, gays, transgenders, and all of that. That is considered, if you're found guilty by a competent court of jurisdiction, you can be subjected to a fine of, I think, not less than 750 penalty units, and not more than 2,000 penalty units, I think. Or a jail sentence or custodial sentence of 6 months minimum, maximum 3 years, or depending on the facts before the court, a combination of both. So that's one offense. The second group of offenses are for persons who propagate, advocate, and spread the criminal offense of homosexuality, because it's been criminalized by the Act. Now, even that is broken down into 2 categories: those who do the general, and those who do targeted at children, persons under the age of 18. Now, that comes with a prison sentence of a minimum of 5 years and a maximum of 10 years. Then you also have persons who willingly fund such prohibited activities. They also have a punishment that is 5 years to 10 years. Then you have a 4th category of persons who carry out extrajudicial treatment, who, because there's a duty to report, that if you see this, you report to lawful authority. We've defined lawful authority to include traditional rulers, members of parliament, and all of those. Now, you either report to them, but if you fail to do that and you carry out extrajudicial treatment, that's where people lynch persons. You can go to jail for between 6 months and 3 years. So the bill itself takes care of extrajudicial. So those are the 4 various regimes that I readily remember are stated in the bill.
Let me bring in Michael Akakpo. Michael, you've been opposed to this bill since day one. Well, it's been passed today, and it was, if you like, a unanimous decision by parliamentarians.
Well, thank you, Aisha. I mean, I wasn't in Parliament when the bill was passed. I happened to be in a workshop when I heard the bill had been passed. But to say that it was a surprise. It was not a surprise. If you had followed our first briefing yesterday, we had indicated that there was a possibility the bill was going to pass today. And as I said, and I'm listening to some judge make his applications on the content of the bill. I'm just a bit surprised that, maybe we've mitigated past the thing that he had raised up in the bill in terms of prescribing the act of homosexuality, which is already covered under the Section 104 of our criminal code. I think he also raised a point about willingly funding or promoting homosexuality. I mean, I beg to differ that in all the time we've been doing advocacy on rights, there has never been any attempt by any of these advocacy human rights coalitions to say we are funding, we are pushing for homosexual acts to be legalized. We have never said that. We have argued on the basis that rights are the cornerstone of our democracy. And as such, if the Constitution, which some judge himself in 2015 had sat on the panel on the television program and has justified why he didn't think LGBT people need to be criminalized, and why he believes that the Constitution is sacrosanct when it comes to the issues of rights. I don't want to have that 250 some judge that. It's quite unfortunate that we have to get to this place where we are today. I'll just say that for now.
Well, Dr. Odo, you want to respond to that? I'll give you the opportunity to do that. Let me hear from Dr. Amanda Odoi. Your group also describes this law as harmful to democracy and to the country's development. Why so?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and good evening to your listeners. I think there's one thing I want to draw attention to before I move to this question, is the fact that advocacy is not opinionated. Advocacy seeks to drive the interest or a cause of something in the extent of causing a change. It can be policy, which is systemic. It can be an individual form of advocacy, which a group come together to make a claim or push for an agenda. And it's informed by research. It's informed by activities. It's informed by data. And then there's self-advocacy. So LGBT persons could have done a self-advocacy, but our group moves beyond self-advocacy to look at the impact of this bill on the group, on the society. So we've sat down, and that's the sad aspect of it, that we've sat down and a group of people with a particular interest have pushed for a law that affects the entire country. So we have a bill or a law which has not been assented yet that talks about the fact that if same-sex relationships, it's anal sex, or any forms of unwanted sexual activity as they have defined in the law, it's just limited to queer persons. But then when anal sex, which can be detrimental to the health, as they are claiming, also to women when they are forced to have anal sex in heterosexual relationships. But we are saying that, well, with the power in our hands, we can discriminate against a certain gender whilst we give certain limitations to a certain group. We also have instances where people's lives are going to be monitored. So at first, queer people have lived with us. Actually, there's evidence to show that queer people have always lived with us. We have gone to school. The reasons why we have norms and practices in our schools which had sanctions around these relationships is the fact that they have always been with us, and we thought that we should be regulated. But with the start of this bill and the discussions around it, hostility has increased against the community to the extent that even non-queer persons who exhibit effeminate characteristics are right now tagged. You go to the job place, your movement is monitored. People are discriminated against. An employer can decide that because you exhibit effeminate characteristics, I cannot take you or employ you in my job just in case I am tagged for employing somebody that is queer. Because by walking about, I do not claim to be a queer person. You will never know. If you never catch me and act, you can never know. This has implications for people's livelihoods. people's economic participation, people's engagement in education. Now you're saying that academic institutions must out all students who are assumed or perceived or are found to be queer. You're denying them right to education. There's equal access to education that must be for everyone. And this has implications for the lives of these young women, young men that will have to go to school. It has implications for employers. You're saying that the client-doctor confidentiality, if you're a doctor and you have a client coming to you and it tells you that, well, I am here and because of this and that, I need this kind of services, I must be ousted. And it has implications for brain drain. We've realized that in most countries, people who feel that they are being targeted are leaving. There are a lot of us, if nobody tells you that, okay, you will not know. So there are skilled people we have trained that may have to leave this country at this point because they do not feel safe. And these are the economic issues that we are raising. And the fact that this bill does not only apply to queer people, and we are at risk. As a parent, you have to give up your child. You have to report your child who is found to be queer. And this child may be the breadwinner of the family. What do you do as a pastor or as a priest? If somebody comes to you and comes to confess, now you have to report that person. So what are the mental stress, the torture we are going to take a lot of people who are not necessarily queer through these phases has implication, which then, and some of the words that are being used also, for example, if you're saying that promotion is subjective. As an academic, my specialization is in sexualities. And as part of sexualities, I do LGBT studies. As public health workers, we need to talk about some risk, even around sexualities, and it may include talking about queer people and some of the support that they will need. It is for the good of the country and for us to be able to look at the various groups, their needs, and how to meet them so that it does not become a problem. At this point, it is going to be very difficult to engage in such conversations. And you're saying that who willingly funds research fees policy? Research fees the betterment of the lives of people. So if I get funding and to research on queer issues, and there's implication. If I make known that I'm researching into this field, I'm looking for these kind of people to talk to, there's implication. So you're indirectly restricting production of knowledge, participation, and empowerment of people and how to engage their lives. And these are the things we're saying is dangerous. If we already have a law that says that if you engage in a certain sexual act, you are going to be arrested, why do we have to create new ones that has to affect an entire population, a whole country, and limit the rights, the voices of people and their ability to engage, and redefine laws to suit, and the redefinition of laws, which has implications for other groups, such as genders, such as women, and how they can engage even in sexual relations in their bedroom.
Sam George is here.
Report. And also, if I'm a mother and I go into a hotel with a daughter or from a friend, and we want to stay in a hotel as two females, right now when you're booking a hotel, you have to call, and then presumably the hotel has to ask you, are you going to be two females living in a room? Are you queer? All these restrictions, all this discomfort that are coming with it are things that we think that we should have paid attention to before we push for something.
Sam George wants to react. You want to react to Michael and then Dr. Odoi.
First and foremost, I'd appreciate it that Michael, if he was going to make reference to the video from me on my Majority Caucus on Joy News, should not have just listened to a 60-second clipping that's been put out, but requested Joy FM to give him the full tape. I spoke in context, so Michael, go get the context and understand it fine. Now, secondly, when you say that people have rights, and I mean, Mike, we had this conversation on Newsfile about 2 weeks ago. I gave you a simple homework. I expected that you would do better this time. I asked you 2 weeks ago on Newsfile to show me what part of the Constitution of Ghana, the 1992 Constitution, gives people rights based on sexual preferences. You can't just come on national TV and say that people have rights. Rights are defined in Ghana's Constitution. And this also deals with the misinformation put out by Dr. Amanda Odoi. Rights are defined in the Constitution. Even the right to life can and will be curtailed by the state on certain grounds and basis. All the rights in the 1992 Constitution are premised on the fact that they are not injurious to public safety, public health, and public morality. It is clear that the proponents of this pro-LGBTQ agenda read the Constitution in bits and pieces and omit certain parts. Because if you read the 1992 Constitution that you say gives you rights, or gives the people you advocate for rights, Did you read the Constitution to realize that rights can be curtailed on the basis of public morality? And do you understand what morality and public morality is? Do you understand what public health is? Dr. Manda Odoy admits that in the course of their work, they have to deal with people who are at risk because of their sexual activities. And you don't think that that constitutes public health? And again, the misinformation. I don't know if she's referring to the bill that myself and my colleagues have authored. But you see, people have created their own impression of the bills and are fostering their misinformation and miseducation on people. First and foremost, I mean, several of the claims she's made here that you can't go and apply for a job. Why? When you're going to apply for a job, does anybody ask you who you slept with in your bedroom? Am I the one asking LGBTQ practitioners to define themselves by their sexuality? What happens in the confine of your bedroom remains the business of you and your partner. Nobody's coming into your bedroom to find out what's going on. But when you decide to define yourself by what is supposed to be your private sexual preference, then it becomes a matter of public policy, and public policy will apply to it. And if this is all about funding for you, I am more interested in the sanctity of Ghanaian children and not the funds that you receive to do what you claim is academic research. You travel to countries like Qatar. Some of you travel to Qatar. Some of you travel to Saudi Arabia. And when you go there, you abide by the laws there. You just showed Nigeria. Nigeria's punishment is 15 years. Yet they go to Nigeria, they go to these countries and respect the law there. But think that Ghana should become a jungle because we think that we are Yesuyatra, because we think that we are so liberal. The Americans who are funding you, in American states, they are passing legislation to curb LGBTQ. 2 days ago, Tennessee passed legislation in his house that banned the flying of even the flags. They've not just banned the activity, you can't even fly the flags in public schools right now. They're protecting their children. And so what they are rejecting in their own countries, you want to come and impose it here. In the United States, 27 out of their 50 states have laws that ban one form or the other, LGBTQ. That's more than 50% of their states. And yet you want to paint a picture that you are so academic. How academic are you? Are you the places you are getting the funding from? In their own home countries, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is pointing out that homosexuality makes a person 400 times, a homosexual person is 400 times more likely to abuse substance and be an alcoholic and be a drug abuser than a heterosexual person. And it constitutes a health crisis. A homosexual person is 400 times more suicidal than a heterosexual person. Not me, the CDC. It says that a man who has sex with another man is 400 times more likely to get HIV/AIDS than a heterosexual man. And you think that this is something that we should allow you advocate for in the name of academic freedoms? Well, rights are definite. And I'll be glad for you to go and test the law in court and show to the courts what rights you are defending. And you see, let me just wrap up with this, Aisha, because I'm sure you want to bring in a few other people. It's extremely important that we understand that in this country, nobody is marginalizing any group of people. And Michael makes that point, that why do we need this law? Because you have Section 104 of the Criminal Offences Act. Well, maybe, Michael, you should go and read the Attorney General's memo to Parliament. In that memo, the Attorney General actually applauded us because Section 104, if you read Section 104, in light of the Supreme Court's ruling in Banusin versus the Republic 2014, where natural carnal knowledge is defined by our Supreme Court, you realize that Section 104 is discriminatory because it cannot apply to lesbians because it talks about penetration. And lesbians do not have a natural organ for penetration. And so the Attorney General is unable to prosecute any female engaged in lesbianism under Section 104. And so when you have a law that is 1960, which at the time was dealing with what was the known form of homosexuality, and today you have transgenders, you have all kinds of insane perversions being bandied around as lifestyles, and we are making our laws representative of it. You say, why are we doing that? Amen.
Very Reverend, I want to bring you in now, and I'll give you the opportunity, Michael and Dr. Odoy, to come in on this. Very Reverend, you've been in support for this from day one. Now it's been passed. So what? We have Very Reverend AJ.
Yes, the church is very happy. The leadership of the Catholic Church is very happy with the passage of this bill. And we are praying and hoping that the president will assent to this bill so that it becomes law. And congratulations to Parliament for the 100%. And that is our objective, because from the Christian point of view, the bill seeks to promote what Christianity is all about. Human beings were created in the image and likeness of God. And throughout the Bible, homosexuality, lesbianism, whatever, has not been, they are contrary to the tenets of the Holy Scriptures. So we thank Parliament for passing this bill. And we hope what comes out of it. Thank you.
Dr. Odoi, your group also talk about how this will affect the work of the media. I think you made mention about the editorial bit, and then you try to differentiate editorial advocacy and all of that, trying to say that what is in the law actually affects the job of the media. I mean, I just want you to elaborate more on this, how this would actually lead to or bring back criminal libel law.
Okay, thank you. But before then, I would want to respond to a few issues that Sam George raised. There's one thing that I think he has to make clear. This is not the first place he's mentioned that using statistics from CDD. There's a reason why they are numbers. So I think he has to go beyond looking at the numbers that I'm mentioning to look at the reasons behind the reason why queer persons are more likely to be suicidal than heterosexual persons, because they lack support. There's no support. And that is one of the things we are doing to them right now. So right now, if anybody is going through a problem, they don't have any outlet to go seek support. But as a heterosexual person, you can just go out there and talk to any doctor, and then you are okay. So these are some of the reasons why those statistics speak to the higher numbers when it comes to issues of mental health and suicide amongst that community. So he has to go and look beyond the numbers and speak to the issues that are informing the numbers that are being put out there. Also, I think he has to consider the fact that sexual risk is not limited to queer community. There's sexual risk even among heterosexuals. Heterosexuals that engage in anal sex are also a public health risk. So if you are looking at saying that this is just a group, and then if we halt their practices, we save public health, you are opening up a number of people. If we are saying that heterosexual community in Ghana is bigger, you are opening up a number of women who are being exposed to heterosexual, to a number of anal sex, to a number of sexual health risks that we have to pay attention to. And nobody is saying that we cannot have rights, whether as a bigger group or small group. We are saying that we have to pay attention to the issues at hand, and those are some of the issues that Michael was raising. And he also mentioned the fact that who ask of your sexual preferences. Nobody needs to ask. Sam George, you need to pay attention to the actions and the hostility that is coming out of this bill. Now you just have to have effeminate characteristics, and everybody assumes that you're queer because that is the image that we have put out there about who queer persons are. But we have a number of queer persons who may not even exhibit such traits, and they are not at risk. I did a research, and I looked at homophobic violence in Ghana, when and where it counts. And it counts when people actually tend to think that if you have effeminate characteristics, then automatically you're queer. So people that are not even in the community are at risk right now, and they are being targeted. So you don't have to be asked by your boss to be able to, for them to be able to say that, okay, you're here. We have people that make posts, and just the mere fact that they are men and exhibiting those traits, people already tag them as gay, and that has consequences. So they don't need to be asked. If that is the case, then we don't even need to criminalize, because nobody will have to know what we do in our bedroom. Do we know what you do in your bedroom with your partner? No, we don't come to ask. So we assume that everything is perfect and you are okay. We don't know the kind of dangerous sex that may be happening in people's bedrooms, even heterosexual. And then with the media, you mentioned his opening statement that he assumed that the media is an ally. You are gagging the media straight away, saying that it's either they align with Parliament on this bill or that's it. They cannot support. But the media is there to be a voice to the people, put out issues that are detrimental so that we can engage them as a society and find solutions to them. You don't just coerce the media and say that ally for which reason? To promote something that we think is detrimental. One way the media is going to have issues with the fact that if there are pressing issues that you're supposed to raise in the media concerning LGBT issues, now it's going to be very difficult because promotion is subjective, once again, as I say. Talking about LGBT issues may come with a different reason for which the media is reporting. Whatever somebody does with that information, you can never tell. But then you can be assumed that by the mere fact that you are publishing certain news items, certain activities on your news item, then it means that they are liable. Right now, the media outlets cannot show certain movies that are supposed to be having clear perspective. But for all you know, the content of that media item you're showing could be speaking to an issue that may be raised in this bill for whatever reason, but you cannot promote them anymore. And these are the things that we're saying that needs to be addressed, and these are things we need to pay attention to. What I find surprising is that we are not going to regulate what people share on their social media outlets, what information people put out there. So if I find out that somebody, there's a care committee, so I can just make a post, oh, look at these people. And then it's two men probably engaging in hugging or something. And then automatically I could be attacked for promoting queerness. But it could never be. It could be two friends. It could be two siblings hugging and showing affection. And that's it. That has consequences. So this is the extent to which we are trying to limit and curtail our ability to be able to pass on information and be held criminally liable for certain things that might not even be intended.
Michael, so the law has been passed. So what next?
Well, Aisha, so I wanted to just go back a little bit to something some judge has said about the Constitution. You see, I like to ground my argumentation in the Constitution. And just like I did tell some judge the last time we engaged, I told him that the Constitution is a neutral document. And it's for this very reason, that is why when the Constitution says religion, it doesn't prescribe for us what religion would you have. And when the Constitution says gender, it doesn't prescribe for us to determine what gender that is. But I just want to take him back to something he has said. That if I look in the Constitution, which part of the Constitution guarantees that people who identify as they want to identify should be is part of the constitutional makeup. So this idea of, I'll call it this assumptive operative thinking, which is operating on the fact that, you see, sometimes because we are heterosexual, and because we've never questioned heterosexuality since we have been born, so we've taken it for granted that it is what is supposed to be for every society. The point I'm trying to make is that the Constitution does not discriminate. And I've said it so many times that, in matter of fact, there's no reason why we should even be having this conversation of LGBT rights. Because when the Constitution says all persons, it means all persons. It doesn't say separate categories of persons. It says all persons. So when you're making the constitutional argument to cause or to sanction the discrimination of a population of the country, we have to be very careful. Like I said, I'm a firm believer in rights. And I will go to bat for any person whose rights are being infringed on, whether they are gay, whether they are lesbian, whether they are from their tribal life, whether they are minorities on any other ground. I will defend their right to be who they are. So we need to make the clear distinction. As I said, if you want to prescribe the act, if you feel like the act is what you want to prescribe, then make the law to do that. But the idea that, should I say that I'm gay? Should I hold out that I'm gay? And automatically, I should be arrested. And even if you look at the duty to report, I'm supposed to report to assemblymen, MPs. Which part of our how do you call it? Which part of our judicial, our police system, reporting system, have an MP to be reported to? What is the MP going to do? You know, we have so many problems in this country to be worried about. And to think that this is what is important for us, I mean, that's a sorry state for our republic. It is a really sorry state for our republic that in this moment of economic crisis, in this moment when people cannot afford to keep a single bill on the table to eat. But we, our political leaders who we've elected, who are riding $100,000 car, think that it is the sexuality of what people do in their bedroom that they should be concerned about. It's a sorry state for our republic.
Well, Sam George, you've seen the resistance coming from all angles. In fact, the Amnesty International has indicated that it will go to court if this bill is passed into law. And today you're hearing the coalition of the group that is against the passage, led by Professor Odrigajekpo, who say they would also be heading to the Supreme Court. It does look like you are not done with your job. There's still more obstacles that you need to clear.
Well, Michael ends by saying that I drive $100,000 car, and so my focus should not be on the sexuality of people. Well, your whole job is about getting funds from the aberration of other people, and you think that you have a moral right to talk about something that's a law. I mean, listen, Michael, you reference all persons. You reference Article 17. I've said to you on this platform already this evening, don't read the Constitution in bits. Article 17.4. Michael, let me give you an education, please. Article 17.4, the Article 17 that you say says all persons. Go and read 17.4. I've told you, don't read the Constitution in bits. Read it as a whole. Article 17.4 says, nothing in this article that you have referred to shall prevent Parliament from enacting laws that are reasonable, necessary to provide aid for the implementation of policies and programs aimed at redressing social, economic, or educational imbalance in the Ghanaian society. When you have people who are born with 6 fingers, it is not considered, or 6 digits, it's not considered the norm, because it's a 1 in a million occurrence. The fact that you have individuals who choose on their own to carry out what society does not consider normal does not mean that we must make it normal. And that is an educational and societal imbalance that Parliament has rightfully passed the law under Article 17.4 to deal with. Go and also read Article 39, the cultural imperatives that have been imposed on the state. So read the Constitution as a whole and don't read it in bits and pieces. And Amanda makes the point that I should go and look at what informs the statistics. Amanda, you are saying that people's aberration, their abhorrent sexual preferences makes them suicidal because they need help. And you think that we should now accept that aberrant behavior, that abhorrent practice, and now have to deal with giving them. Why? Is it because you think that will open a room for you to now do research? But listen, people do research today into pedophilia. People do research into money laundering. People do research into all kinds of vices. It doesn't mean they have to advocate for it. The moment you begin to equate advocacy to research, you've missed the point, Amanda. That can never be the basis of research. Research can never be equated to advocacy, and the moment you do that, I see you've lost the plot. Okay, so the point we'll make here is this. Amnesty International. And you see, another point Amanda makes, that she's seen a rise in violence. I challenge you, Amanda. And you see, we did this when we had the open session for all of these allies to come into Parliament and appear before Parliament. We asked them for evidence of either a job or a hotel or any discrimination against a person, wrongfully so. None of them could produce an evidence. On this show, I'm calling Amanda out and saying she should give us one instance, of increased violence against a person because of this bill. Look, it's easy to say the things you are saying, but trust me, so long as God gives me breath, I will continue to hold all of you to strict proof, because it is clear that the intent behind all of this advocacy is economic. Aisha, let us call people out. It is economic. It's about the funding they will receive. The funding you receive.
Do you have proof?
Absolutely. CDD is sponsored. No, CDD's research, and Michael is here. CDD's research on this bill was not funded from their own. It was funded by donor partners who have an interest in pushing LGBTQ. You should deny it. Amanda's research is sponsored by groups that are pro-LGBTQ. Don't deny this. This is fact. So if people are thinking about the money they get for their research, and for that, they think that Parliament should sit down for the innocence of our children to be taken away. Where are we going as a country?
In terms of accent,
they should state the source of your funding. Okay. I am challenging you to state the source of your funding.
Michael, give me a second. I'll come to you too. All right, so go ahead and respond in 1 minute, please.
This very state, this very Ghana state we live in today, right? Where are we? Who is funding us today?
So you are not disputing that you are funded by groups that are interested in LGBTQ. You are not disputing it, because we need to call the CDD out on this. The CDD does fantastic work, but on this matter, we'll call you out.
Asked him to deny or confirm, so he's doing that. Michael, go ahead.
The state that Sam George is a minister, is a member of parliament for, is it not being funded partly by donors? So what is he talking about funding?
You mean Parliament is funded by donors?
No, what's the point he made?
To go back to the constitutional argument he made. Look.
No, he should. Let's not run away from your source of funding. Michael, let's establish it. You've not answered my question. Are you funded or not?
Michael, can you give him a direct answer?
Are you funded or not by pro-LGBTQ groups?
Allow him to respond.
It's a civil society organization. So definitely yes.
He's not answered the question.
He says yes.
But no one funder has given us money to go and to go out on the limb and advocate for men to go sleep with men. And we have said that disclaimer so many times, that this issue for us as CDD is a human rights issue. You know, this is the way that some judges kind of like to conflate issues and try to turn things around. But anyway, we was quoting the Constitution to me. So I just want to reference him that if he goes under the directive principle of state policy, under Article 35, in that says 35.4, he says, the state shall cultivate among all Ghanaians respect for fundamental human rights and freedom and the dignity of the human person. And then he moves on to 5, and he says, the state shall actively promote the integration of the people of Ghana and prohibit discrimination and prejudice on the grounds of place of origin, circumstances of birth, ethnic origin, gender, religion, creed, or belief. So when he's making the constitutional argument to me that I do not get what the Constitution is saying, maybe he hasn't read the Constitution very well. Because as a matter of state policy, Parliament cannot be used to propagate hate. And that is what I'm telling him. And that is exactly what this bill is doing.
Michael, kindly read Article 39.1. Right. Since you are reading the Constitution, read Article 39.1
all right.
and 39.2.
Sam George, you have your response now.
Yes.
In terms of assenting the bill, you don't have a good case because of precedents. Recently, we've seen 2 bills that you've passed into law. The one that has to do with the death penalty in our criminal law, and then the witchcraft accusation bill. You've seen the back and forth on it. As we speak, the president hasn't assented. What makes you think he will assent to this?
Well, it's up to the president to choose to accent or not to accent. But if the president is minded that he holds power and trust for the Ghanaian people, and the Ghanaian people overwhelmingly today, it was a unanimous vote. There was no vote in opposition to the passage of the bill. We represent the people of Ghana. We've passed the bill. We're bringing it to him within 7 days. He has 7 to 14 days to append his signature to it. If he chooses not to, he would have to give us tangible reasons. And if his reasons don't make sense to us, we intend to bring it back to Parliament, because the Constitution envisages the time that you can have a president who would not be in tandem with the wishes of the people, and gives us 2/3. If we get 2/3 of Parliament, we will pass this bill into law, with or without the president. But the president must bear in mind that his legacy is one that's at stake. He has made commitments to the Anglican Church in the Eastern region when he addressed the clergy there and said that under his watch he would make sure that nothing that promotes LGBTQ is done. There is nothing that is more inhibical to the promotion of anti-LGBTQ than signing this bill. You understand me? So the president, I hold the view that I believe he would listen to the will of the Ghanaian people and proceed to sign it. If he doesn't do it, we would exercise our 2/3 majority power in Parliament and pass it into law.
Amanda, I have 1 minute. Let me give it to you to wrap up. When are you going to court, as your group said?
I want to clarify, Sam George.
Please do that in 1 minute.
That is making them have mental health. Just the lack of support is informing the statistics you're speaking to. So go back and read it again. Also, I fund my research, and I dare you to come out and tell me where you think I get my funding from. If you are daring somebody else to come up also. I'm also surprised to see a whole member of parliament saying that there's no relationship between research, advocacy. Go check all our policies that we have as a country. And the relationship.
That's not what I said, Aisha. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. Don't misquote me. No,
please. You said
I said research is not the same as advocacy.
Let me have my 1 minute.
Don't misquote me. If you're going to quote me, if you will quote me correctly.
And clearly, I want you to understand that that is the relationship, because for a policy, for a lot to be known, there should be.
I didn't speak of a relationship, Amanda. Don't set your own questions and answer them. I said there is a difference between research and advocacy.
Listen to this audio again when it's over, and you will see the mistake that
I said there's a difference between advocacy.
People look up to you as a parliamentarian. I don't think that you should make.
Well, that's all time will allow us. And as this bill has been passed, we are monitoring how things unfold. We're looking forward to the response of the president, who has the ultimate responsibility to assent or not to assent the bill. So, of course, we are watching with keen interest. Definitely, there's more conversations on this topic. Thank you so much, Dr. Amanda Odoi. Thank you, Michael Akako. Very Reverend Ajay, I'm grateful for your time. And Sam George, thank you so much for coming to the studio. Viewers, many thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of our program.